Hi, my name is Matthew, and I want to make a few videos to introduce myself and talk a little bit about my ministry experience and where I come from, about also my theological training and how I pastor a church, and in hopes that you can get to know me and we can pray together and determine if the Lord is calling me to pastor the Union Church. Personally, this would be an honor for me to pastor your church. I love God's church, and I'd love to explore whether or not this is of the Lord, and I invite you to pray and seek the Lord with me on this. So, a little bit about myself. I am from Ohio, born and raised in Paulding, Ohio, and actually born in Paulding, but raised in Columbus, Ohio. My father is a second-generation United Methodist pastor. My grandfather, Mark Burden, he was a pastor in the Evangelical United Brethren Church in Ohio, and then he lived through the merger from the EUB to the United Methodist Church. So my dad was raised as a pastor's son, as I was, and my three other siblings as pastor's kids. And my dad started pastoring his first church in the United Methodist Church, freshly married. They were married in July, and then he started his first church late August when they were both 20 years old. So pretty young in life and in ministry. I am the second born. I'm going to show a picture of my family. The second born of 4 children. My older sister, Rachel, and her husband Daniel, and their 3 children live in Nashville, Tennessee. Then there's me, and I'm single and engaged. And then my brother after me, David, he's married to Valerie, and they have 3 children, and they live in northern Indiana. And then my youngest brother, Jonathan, is single, and he lives in Indianapolis, Indiana as well. So I'm the firstborn male. My mom, when she was pregnant, and at that time they didn't have regular ultrasounds for the pregnancy health, but she had a dream before she gave birth, and in that dream she was in the hospital room, and she felt the presence of the Lord behind her head. She didn't see him, and he said, "You're going to have a son, and I want you to name him Matthew, because my hand is upon him, and I have called him." And she woke up and was instantly afraid. As far as my mom grew up with all sisters, so raising a son was very intimidating for her. But she did. They named me Matthew, like the Lord told them to. And then my second name, Mark, is my grandfather's name, which is also my dad's middle name and passed on to me. So my middle name is the name that my family has given me. But since an early age, I from what my parents tell me, I was different, where I loved being in church. I loved going to vacation Bible school, and they saw the Lord's hand on me. My parents were in missions. We were in missions for a while in Amsterdam, and my parents were part of Youth with a Mission, and so they would teach the kids how to pray and hear God's voice, and they would say that I would always pray for people, and that God would use me a lot in prayer. Things I don't remember growing up, but so yeah, we have lived in Ohio most of our lives. In Columbus, I graduated high school in 2000 in Cincinnati, and you know, before then, I became a Christian when I was 15 years old. Every summer, my parents, my dad's church and many other churches in the area would come together and they'd go on a mission trip to Mexico. Because they had met Rebecca Valderas in Youth with a Mission in a trip to Mexico City, and then she invited them to Monterrey, and so they connected with Divino Redentor, the Methodist church there, and it was on one of those trips when I was 15 years old. We had done a day of evangelism on the summer hot streets of Santa Catarina in Monterrey, and I remember we put up speakers and invited a lot of people to come, a lot of families, a lot of kids. We were playing soccer in the streets, and one of the men in the team stood up and preached the gospel, that Jesus had died for their sins, and that if they believed by faith that he died for them, they would be saved. And just a simple gospel message. And I remember that from what little I remember, God opened my eyes, and I understood that I needed Jesus. That even though I had grown up in church and gone to Sunday school and vacation Bible school, had memorized the books of the Bible, and my mom had prayed with us every day, read Bible stories, and my dad would have family devotions, and we are a very tight family. I knew that God was not going to save me because of my parents' faith. And so he opened my eyes to see that I needed Jesus. And so I went forward and I received salvation and became a Christian at 15 years old on that mission trip. And every summer we kept going back, and a love for ministry and a love for missions, particularly in Latin America. And Mexico was was really my only experience that I remember. I was very young when we were in Amsterdam. It was before I graduated high school. I remember we were in Juarez, visiting another pastor and working with an orphanage that he had. That we were going down the street in a car on the way to the ministry site, and I remember looking out the window and seeing people, and my heart just being stirred, and I started to cry, and to myself I prayed, Lord, if you would call me to be a missionary, to serve you in this way, I'll go. And the Lord said, I'm calling you. I felt that in my spirit, and so I went. After high school, I joined Youth with a Mission in Monterrey and lived there 6 years. And so I worked in a lot of the city, worked with all different churches. All the different denominations. We had a discipleship school, and from there, that was my first trip to Cuba in 2000. And to Spain and to other countries, and serving the Lord in missions. So that's kind of the big picture, and then I'll get to a bit of my resume later. But so about me, I like football, I like soccer, I'm a meat eater, me encanta la carne, vegetables, and I love good coffee. I'm a musician. I play piano and I sing and I write music, and I love to preach. I love people. I love people. I love working with people and getting to know new people. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.